Welcome to the Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into AWS Identity and Access Management. You know it as IAM. And look, this isn't just some service. It is the absolute bedrock of security in AWS. And we're going to break it all down for you, piece by piece. So let's kick things off with a statement that's bold, but I promise you, it's true. If you can really get your head around IAM, you've pretty much mastered 90% of the AWS security model. It's that important. It's the core of everything. All right, here's how we're going to tackle this. We'll start with the key to AWS security, then cover the first three pillars: who, what, and where. After that, we'll get into the advanced stuff with Pillar 4, cover the golden rule with Pillar 5, and then look at it all from a network engineer's point of view to really tie it all together. All right, so what's the real secret to getting AWS security right? Well, it all comes down to 5 core concepts. Get these 5 things down, and I guarantee you can understand any permission, any policy in AWS. And here they are: principle, action, resource, condition, and evaluation logic. Think of these as the fundamental building blocks. Everything we're going to talk about today is built on these 5 pillars. So let's just dive right in. Okay, let's kick things off with the first 3 pillars. This is the fundamental trio, right? It answers the most basic questions you could ask about any request. Who's asking, what do they want to do, and where are they trying to do it? First up, we've got the principle. Simple enough, right? This is the who. Every, and I mean every, permission decision in AWS starts with this question: who is making the request? Now, principles aren't all the same. They generally fall into one of 3 buckets. You've got your human users, maybe coming in through something like AWS Identity Center. Then you have your machine identities, think IAM roles for your EC2 instances or Lambda functions. And finally, you've got external identities, maybe coming from your corporate identity provider like Okta, or even from GitHub through OIDC or SAML. Okay, pillar number 2, the action. This is the what. What is the principle trying to do? And here's something you've got to remember. Everything you do in AWS, even just clicking a button in the console, is an API call. It's all just an action under the hood. So you see actions like S3 get object or EC2 start instances. Now, this is the critical piece for folks with a networking background. The real firewall in AWS. It isn't your security group or network ACL. It's IAM. It's this API permission boundary. That's the perimeter. And that brings us to our third pillar, the resource. This is the where. It's the specific thing, the S3 bucket, the EC2 instance, the DynamoDB table, that the action is being performed on. And every single resource in AWS has a unique identifier, its Amazon Resource Name, or ARN. So when you put these pieces together, this is what you get. You're creating a rule. This policy statement right here is saying, I'm going to allow the action s3.getObject, but only on the specific resource that matches this ARN. In this case, that's any object inside the My bucket, S3 bucket. See how that works? Action and resource together. All right, so we've got who, what, and where. But what if we need more control? That's where Pillar 4 comes in. This is where things get really powerful. We're about to add some advanced filters. Okay, so what is a condition? The easiest way to think about it is like an advanced filter on your permission. It's what lets you add specific requirements, and honestly, this is the key to building real, fine-grained zero-trust controls. So what kind of things can you do? Well, you could say a user can only access this bucket if their request comes from our corporate IP range. That's AWS source IP. Or maybe they can only delete a resource if they've authenticated with MFA. That's AWS multi-factor auth present. You can even get as specific as saying, you can only start this instance during business hours. The possibilities here are incredible. Okay, now we get to what is probably the most misunderstood, but also the most important part of IAM. This is the golden rule. This is the critical piece. How does AWS look at all these different policies and decide, finally, whether to allow or deny a request? If you get this, you get everything. It's actually a really simple 3-step logic, and it never changes. Step 1, by default, everything is denied. You start from a position of zero trust. Step 2, an explicit allow in a policy can open a door and grant permission. But, and this is the big one, step 3, an explicit deny statement. Anywhere slams all doors shut. It overrides everything. Just burn this into your brain. Deny always wins. I don't care if you have 10 allow policies. If there is just one explicit deny that applies, whether it's in an SEP, at the org level, a role policy, a resource policy, it doesn't matter. the request is denied. End of story. The evaluation logic just stops right there. All right, for all my fellow network engineers out there, this next slide is for you. This is the analogy that's going to make all of this just click. We're going to translate IAM into terms you already know and love, firewall rules. Let's walk through this. Look at how perfectly these concepts map. Your IAM principle, that's your source IP address. It's the who. The action, that's your protocol and port. Think TCP port 443. It's the what. The resource, that's your destination IP, the where. And the conditions are like your other firewall match criteria. But the evaluation logic, that's a direct match to how a firewall ACL works. The explicit deny rule is always processed first and takes precedence over any permit rule. It's the exact same logic. Okay, so let's wrap this up and really lock in this foundation. So there you have it, the 5 core concepts, the 5 pillars of IAM. The principle, which is the who, the action, the what, the resource, the where, the condition, which adds that crucial when or how, and finally, the evaluation logic, which makes the final call. And I'm not exaggerating when I say this. If you truly understand these 5 pillars, you genuinely understand IAM better than, I'd estimate, 80% of the engineers out there. This isn't just trivia. This is the key to building secure, scalable, and resilient architectures on AWS. So now that you have this rock-solid foundation, what's next? Well, the next logical step is to start applying it at scale. How do you manage all this for your human users? That's where you start building on this foundation with things like AWS Identity Center, or what you might know as AWS SSO. That's how you take these principles and put them to work in the enterprise.